Today we're going to talk a little bit about our key to Boost. So Boost is our humic acid component of our grow system. And one thing to keep in mind here is this isn't a nutrient, this is a supplement. So supplements are to be used in cohesion with our nutritional regimen. So you're not just going to feed a bunch of Boost and expect that to, kind of get you all the nutrition you're going to need. This is going to help deliver that nutrition. And again, very similar to our fulvic acid, this is an extremely high concentration humic acid. And this is an 89 to 95% humic acid, highest concentration, highest purity in the market, and it's very soluble, so it'll work in any system. So again, this is going to decrease your nutrient costs. This is going to increase the efficiency of your system. If you're in a raised bed, it's going to be a natural soil conditioner to help kind of all the biology and everything work together. So if you're going to work, no matter what your system, get yourself some Key to Boost today. What is Cal No Mag? It is just what it says. It's Cal with no mag. Pure 17% plant-based calcium. Not only that, but it contains the same 17 L-amino acids that are going to revitalize. So you're getting that deliverable nitrogen, you're getting that deliverable calcium, you're getting those deliverable amino acids, and it's great for any system. You're talking soil, you're talking hydro, you're talking indoor, you're talking outdoor. Doesn't matter what your media type or what your grow conditions are, Cal No Mag is for you. Now, most Cal Mags that people are used to, it's sort of a liquid solution. It's kind of an amber color, and you see this sort of flaky stuff kind of settling out to the bottom. And what that actually is, it's calcium and magnesium coming together and falling out of solution, which means the plant actually needs to input energy to break that back apart and be able to utilize it. And if it doesn't do so, it just kind of hangs around in your soil system. And in container systems especially, this is a really, really good way to get issues with calcium buildup, magnesium buildup, salt buildup, things along those lines. So not what we're looking for. Getting a little nerdy here, but that's kind of why we did things the way we did them. It gives the farmers the most versatility to be able to utilize calcium the way they want to use it in their system for the problem that they have, which is what we're trying to deliver. Solutions instead of problems. Call us a Key to Life, that's what we got.
We're excited to announce Key to Life products have been added to the CCOF Approved Materials database. This is a milestone for us because California Certified Organic Farmers, or CCOF, is a USDA-accredited organic certifying agency and trade association, actually the first one ever, established in 1973. As a nonprofit organization, CCOF's mission is to advance organic agriculture for a healthy world through organic certification, education, advocacy, and promotion. CCOF envisions a world where organic is the norm, as does Key to Life. Key to Life products added to CCOF's approved materials database include Silver Bullet, Root Life Microbes, Root Life Fungi, Key to Boost, Key to Uptake, and Key to Kelp. Enzyme was also identified as a suitable cleaning product. Key to Life founder, owner, and CEO, Tate Dooley.
We're excited to receive CCOF's approval for use on the organic farms they certify, and this is just the first step in our organic certification. The majority of ingredients that go into our manufacturing are certified organic, but as a small family-owned business, investment in our own certification has been cost prohibitive until now.
Visit us at keytolifesupply.com and stay connected on social media. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Key to Life Supply, also on LinkedIn and YouTube at Key to Life.
This is the industry's first microbially based, microbially safe enzyme. This is Enzyme, the Zyme, the end all zymes. Enzymes are really used to reduce action potential and help make nutrients more efficient, but it's readily used to help clean lines and help clean our hydro lines, clean our soil systems, knock back salt buildup and things of that nature. And again, the issue is that most enzymes are absolute nuclear bombs for microbial activity. So if you're going to apply most of your traditional off the store-bought shelf enzymes, it's going to knock all that back and you're going to have to re-inoculate and start from square one. Not only do you not have to do this, but it contains a bolstered population of our microbes so that over time these microbes can continue to provide enzymes for your system. So for more information on Enzyme or any other kick products from Key to Life,
check us out at keytolifesupply.com.
Why fungi? Fungi is an absolute essential part in an extremely efficient system. Fungi is basically the telephone system of our nutrient and soil system. Fungi does a really, really good job at helping plants not only communicate with plants around them if you're in a raised bed system, but helps a plant communicate with itself in and of its own root zone. The best time to utilize fungi is during transplant. And the reason that is because during transplant, our roots have a wide exposed range of roots, and those roots are kind of stuck by the edge of that container. And what we want them to do is as they move out and move forward, we kind of want to inoculate with that fungi so they can take the fungi along for the ride as they proliferate into their newly transplanted soil systems. Now, what does this help us deliver? Not only does this help us deliver minerals across the nutrient system, but again, helps the plant communicate with itself, making our delivery of our nutrients more efficient. Your plants will be happier, they'll be healthier, you'll decrease transplant stress, you'll increase nutrient uptake and efficiency, and you're just gonna make your garden a happier place to be. Today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about kelp. Why use kelp? Kelp's main essential contribution to the nutrient system is hormones. It is absolutely jam-packed with hormones. Now, kelp itself, since it's got these high levels of hormones, it in optimal conditions can actually grow up to 3 feet per day. And that's really what we're trying to achieve when we're utilizing kelp. We're going to utilize its high level of hormones. It's got a really, really high amount of deliverable potassium as well. And then it's got some additional minerals and micronutrients in it that can contribute to the system. So if you're going to go organic and you need some more hormones, you want a more vigorous growth, apply it in a foliar manner, apply it in your soil system, and it's really going to take you to that next level of vegetative growth, and you should see an effect pretty quickly. This is our key to life, root life microbes. It is a 1.2 billion CFU per gram dry, soluble, micronized biological product. So it's not in liquid, so it's got a long shelf life. Great for you. It's extremely soluble, so it works in any system. And not only that, it's bound directly to sucrose, dextrose, amino acids, all kinds of different microbial food. So your microbes are gonna get every bit of food that they need the second that they hit the water. We've got your bacillus species who do a really good job at multiplying quickly. We've got our Pseudomonas bacteria. We've got our Streptomyces. We've got our Panabacillus. We've got our potassium fixers, our nitrate reducers. A lot of those are our Panabacillus species. And we've got our Trichoderma. We have a high concentration of aerobic bacteria. So if you're doing your due diligence, making sure your reservoir is constantly aerated and oxygenated, then you're gonna be able to have a tea that's gonna last 7, 10, even 14 days as opposed to your traditional microbes. So if you know Keto Life, you probably know Silver Bullet, and there's a very good reason for that. It's your one-stop shop for a bunch of help in your nutrient system. Numero uno, it's a terpene enhancer. And if you're tired of feeding terpene enhancers every single feeding all the way through bloom, instead try once week 2, once week 4, and once week 6 at 2, 4, and 6 grams per gallon for maximum terpene enhancement, regardless of strain type. Doesn't matter if you're looking for pinene, if you're looking for limonene, if you're looking for lavender. If you want any sort of terpene, Silver Bullet provides that stem cell to create basically any terpene on the profile tree. So hit us up for Silver Bullet if you need nutrient enhancement as well. Most nutrient systems are actually deficient in sulfur, which is a very important secondary nutrient. We should almost say NPKs. It's that important. And last but not least, if you want clean, healthy, vigorous clones and vegetative plants, try a full plant freaking dunk in this stuff and watch your garden light up. We're going to talk a little bit about uptake today. So this is a fulvic acid product, and fulvic acids are really important in our grow systems. What they're going to help do is they're going to help basically deliver the nutrients that we need across the cell wall and make them more easily bioavailable for our plants. And now what makes our fulvic acid a little bit different is most fulvic acids you see are probably in liquid form. They top out about 3 or 5% fulvic acid. Even the dry form fulvics generally top out about 20 or 30%. This guy right here is a 96% 97% fulvic acid. So the highest concentration, highest purity fulvic acid on the market. We can use it pretty much with anything that grows. If you're using a synthetic system or an organic system, you're going to be able to utilize this fulvic acid pretty much anywhere we need it. It'll make you more efficient, reduce your nutrient costs, and just make your grow a really a happy grow overall.
I wanted to talk a little bit with Jeff about some compost tea. I know that it's a very controversial subject. Keto Life does sell a Cyclone brewer, and that's actually the root of the company.
Very nice.
I don't know if I told you that, Jeff.
Yes, you started with it.
Started with the Cyclone brewer in my driveway up
Very
in
nice.
Breckenridge, Colorado,
Nice.
started selling tea brewers to people. And
Good.
before too long of selling people nutrients 1 cup at a time in Ziploc bags, we kind of thought that it might be best to drop a whole nutrient line with it. So, what's your view on compost tea? I know one of the biggest areas of controversy there is in this water vessel you brew a particular species and population of microbes, and then it goes into the soil, and potentially it might not be those same species of microbes that are active in the soil. What's your take there?
Okay, here's my take, and I don't know if it's the right take, but it's my take. Those that can survive in the soil will survive in the soil. The other ones become food for those that are already in the soil. And so the nutrients that you put into your compost tea, along with the growing bacteria and fungi that you get out of the compost tea, will feed existing microbiology in your soil. So even if you're not brewing the right microbes, you know you've got aerobic microbes so that they're healthy microbes and they're not going to be doing bad things to your plants, to your soil, and to your own health. You know you're at least feeding the population of microbiology that's in the soil already. So, but on the other hand, if you make your tea properly at the right temperature with the right inputs and the right quality compost, I don't think there's any question that what you're putting down is used by the plant. And so that's the trick. The trick is to make great compost tea. It's got to really be made right with the right kind of brewers. It's got to have absolute aerobic, properties the whole time. And you got to be careful about the nutrients that you put into it. What goes into that compost tea gets multiplied and held by the bodies of those, microbes. And if you put the wrong stuff in, you're going to have a bad tea. If you put in, for example, too much molasses, you'll end up with only bacteria because they'll go crazy. They'll eat everything. They'll outcompete everything else that's in there. So you got to be careful about what you're doing and how you do it. You got to pay attention to people like Dr. Elaine Ingham, who's always adjusting the system a little bit. And you got to just keep at it.
That's awesome. So basically what you're telling everybody is these microbes that get put back into the soil, whether they're alive and benefiting the plant or not, they're just going to be eaten by the other bacteria, turned into fertilizer anyway.
Exactly right. It's an eat-be-eaten world down there, and if something goes into the soil that shouldn't be there, generally it gets eaten by something that will consume it and be very happy and grow. And so, even putting in, it's sort of like compost. I mean, you put that compost down. Do you know whether the microbes in that compost are the same microbes that are down there at the bottom of the rhizosphere? They should be. They could be. Maybe they're not, though. But that compost has got all sorts of stuff in it that is feeding the soil food web that ultimately will feed the plant. And so when you use compost tea, obviously you're doing the same thing. I think people use a little bit too much nutrients sometimes. There's nothing wrong with making a compost extract. You could put that in your machine for 15 or 20 minutes instead of doing it for 24 or 48 hours. And even though you're not multiplying it, at least you're pulling the stuff out.
Right.
But yeah, these microbes in the tea, if they're not feeding the plant, they're feeding other microbes. The nutrients that you put in to make them better is also doing the same thing.
It's very interesting. So the other thing too that a lot of people talk about with compost tea is that bacterial versus fungal.
Right.
Because, we've talked about it before. There's not a whole lot of opportunity to be able to grow a mycorrhizal colony inside of a compost tea.
Right.
So what we tell our growers is if you want to use our fungi from Keto Life and throw it onto some compost, some oats, some straw, put a lid on it in a Tupperware, stick it in a nice, warm, moist place, and grow the Santa's beard. Yeah. That's a very good way to be able to increase your fungal colonization of your compost. And then you can either take that moldy compost and you can put it into a compost tea, or you could top dress it. But the reason that a lot of people like to do that is because if you look at population of bacteria versus fungi on a timeline, bacteria is a perfect, if the food is there and the oxygen,
to multiply like that
45 degree curve, versus that mycorrhizal colony is a flat growth curve. You actually have to, it only grows in size. It really doesn't reproduce in number, especially in liquid. You grow the colonies and you grow the number in the compost, put it into the compost tea, and allows all the spores and mycorrhizal hyphae to be broken down and distributed from there into your soil system.
Yeah, I put it a slightly different way. And first of all, the mycorrhizal fungi are very fragile. So if you're going to add mycorrhizal fungi to a compost tea, you do it when you finish brewing, just before you put the stuff down.
Like how long would you recommend?
How long to keep the
before you use the tea? What's your optimal timing?
I use the tea right away.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I almost never keep it. I mean, you can put it in the refrigerator and you can keep it up to a couple.
Well, I mean, from the moment that you add a mycorrhizal colony.
Right away.
Yeah,
right away.
That's what
as soon as I possibly can. But the deal is that fungus will, during a 24-hour period, will grow, but generally not multiply.
Yes.
Whereas the bacteria, as you say, they multiply every 15 minutes. You're really doubling the population, And so they outcompete. You grow that fungus ahead of time in your compost, that will continue to grow in the. Now it's still fragile, but you're right. The spores and whatnot will all be available, et cetera, et cetera. It all becomes microbe food because it all has good stuff in it. And it's interesting that Dr. Elaine is suggesting, and again, I don't mean to be putting words in her mouth because I've only heard this secondhand, a 0.6 to about a 1 ratio, bacteria to fungal, FB fungal to bacteria ratio. It's very hard to get a very high fungal ratio, but a 1, that ought to be attainable.
Yeah.
And so, using the right foods, very little molasses. If you want to have more bacteria, more fungal, the fulvic acids would be a good food. Humic acids are a good food because they're a good substrate. Kelp, excellent. Fish hydrolysate, all good foods for fungal. But don't use too much. Don't go crazy. People go crazy, and Kate is absolutely right. Grow it in the compost first. Actually, I like to take credit for discovering that because
the Santa's beard.
We were making teas, and I was sending them. Don't tell my wife. I hope she never sees this thing. But I was sending in teas to Dr. Elaine back in the day like crazy because I didn't know what was going on.
When was this?
This was back 1996 or 7. I don't know. Way back in the day.
That's awesome.
And I was making my own brewers and testing different brewers out, and and I'd get these comments back saying, "What did you do to this tea? It's terrible." Bad brewer I made. I made one with a fan that literally had paint sticks in a bucket. It was a little fan I bought at Woolworths. But anyway, the ratio of 0.6 to 1 is not that hard to make,
especially when you have control.
Exactly, and that's the point. So you can do that, and you should do it, and you should have it tested, and by God, grow the finest cannabis you possibly can.
That's for sure. And you're going to do it organically with the biggest diversity of microbes that encourage the entourage effect.
Right.
Which that is a whole thing in of itself that we could come up with.
By the way, that the Santa beers thing came as a result of my finally talking to a doctor. And I said, how do you grow fungus when you want to see if somebody's sick? How do you grow that fungus? And we use potato, we use oatmeal, and I tried all of those things, and it was the dry baby oatmeal that really grew that Sanders beer crazy. Now it may only be growing the Sanders beer, certain kinds of fungi, but at least they're in there, and at least they're going to be food for the microbes. So it's really exciting stuff.
It is. It is. Well, Jeff, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I was going to bump your hand.
Boom.
I'm an old guy, but really appreciate what you've done and what you're continuing to do. And I hope you come out with new products all the time. And
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate it. And please tell your employees, I was floored with their ethics.
Awesome.
Very
Thank
important. So important.
you. It is.
Check us out at KeyToLifeSupply.com.
Right? And I think, again, continuing on with the microbes and the carbon concept, everybody has these crazy ideas that, for example, I'm just going to throw this out, and I hope I'm not proven, well, I hope I am proven wrong later, but I think I'm right now. That you can stick stuff in the soil and it's going to go into the plant and it's going to make better terpenes. You put terpenes in the soil and somehow the plant takes them up and they make terpenes. No, that's not how it works. The plant makes what it needs from what's given it by the microbes. And so the microbes take whatever you put into that soil, they break it down and they put a charge on it, because the only way these things can go into the plant is to have a charge on them. And so the microbes are in control of putting the charge on, converting the organic molecule into an inorganic molecule so that it can go in. And if you don't have the right microbes and the right ratios, you're all messed up. So Tate mentioned the idea of bacterial dominance or fungal dominance or bacterial balance, fungal balance. It's a very, very important concept in the soil food web, because what we've discovered over the years of studying the soil food web is that there are two kinds of nitrogen, NH4 and NO3.
Nitrate
and nitrite, or ammonium. Ammonium. And the ammonium is preferred by one kind of plant, and the nitrates are preferred by other plants. And so what you need to do is figure out what your plant likes. Which fertilizer does your plant like? Does it like the nitrogen that's in ammonium form or in nitrate form? And the way you do that, and that all has to do with the soil food web, for reasons which you can pick up in the book, but in short, if you've got the right mixture, the things that are pooped out by the nematodes and the protozoa, who are eating the bacteria and fungi, are always in ammonium form. But if you've got nitrogen fixing bacteria in your soil, they convert that into nitrates. And that relates to a pH situation, because you don't normally have a lot of nitrate fixing bacteria if your pH is low. If it's above 7, you're going to have a lot of them. If it's below 7, you're going to have fewer of them. And so you can tweak what kind of nitrogen you're going to give your plant by making sure that your soil is either fungally dominated or bacterially dominated. Long story short, you can do that. And Dr. Elaine Ingham has determined that there are certain ratios that plants like. And so the general rule is an annual plant that's in the ground for less than a year likes bacterially dominated soil, and you go for the bacterially dominated stuff. It turns out that cannabis is an annual plant, and it likes bacteria. Now, plants that are in the ground longer than a year, that normally have much tougher tissue, bark, right, stem, those like the fungally dominated soil. And so you go for fungally dominated inputs, or inputs that are going to increase the fungal domination in your soil. Now, it has been studied to the point now where, again, I think Dr. Elaine Ingham has suggested that you want to have a ratio of somewhere between 0.6 and 1.
Yep.
How does that correlate, just so that you understand? If you are in an old growth forest, the ratio of fungi to bacteria are somewhere in the vicinity of 50 to 1. 50,000 to 1. 50,000 fungi to 1 bacteria. Mm-hmm. If you're on the other side of the spectrum, the beginning of the system, the beach, and then life starts to form, that's almost 100% bacteria. It is 100% bacterial, and very slowly the fungal will move in. So when we're talking 0.6 to 1, we're not talking way the heck over on the heavy side. And so what you want to be able to do is have a product where you can measure and adjust and get to the ratio that your plant wants. And again, with cannabis, apparently it's 0.6 to 1.
0.6 to 1.
And these are the kinds of things that you put in, and you can use the accuracy of the ability to be able to measure in a way that you can't with the liquids, because you don't really know what's in that liquid, and what the concentrations are, and how it applies. This stuff you understand. So
it's very important. Microbe to fungi ratio dictates all the nutrients that are going to get cycled, even the stretch of the apical meristem is highly dictated. If you have a plant that should be bacterially dominant and it ends up becoming fungally dominant, your apical meristem is going to slow down dramatically and your plants aren't going to be stretching and growing the same. So what Jeff's saying is, a really good tool to be able to help you achieve maximum performance inside of your garden. Knowledge is power. Right. Highly recommend checking out the Keto Life or the Teaming with Microbes book.
Well, and of course the Keto Life stuff as well. And test your soils. I mean, there are all sorts of different kinds of tests. You should certainly do an NPK test so you know what's going on. Yep. You should certainly be doing a soil food web test so that you know whether your soils have a ratio that's where you want to have it.
Do you recommend compost tea growers to keep microscopes around?
I certainly do.
Get very used to the whole process.
I certainly do. You should either be able to test it quickly, or which either means that you're close to a soil food web lab and you can get it there quickly, or having your own microscope. Maybe even take the course from the soil food web people so you can learn how to distinguish between the fungi and the bacteria. They're pretty easy to do, but figure out how to do the count on a grid. It's very, very important to have as much knowledge as you possibly can, particularly if you are a commercial grower. I mean, my goodness gracious, data is power. Get as much of it as you can.
Data is the sales pitch these days. I see a huge transition happening in the industry where claims and statements are going to the wayside, and now it's data and facts and actual real life statistics.
Right.
So I'm guessing one of your biggest aspects of keeping the microbes healthy is that carbon-based nutrient, that carbon network,
that's exactly
instead of those petroleum-derived.
Precisely, and that's exactly how the system operates. Those exudates that drip out of the root system that attract these microbes that keep the plant alive and do other things like make soil structure because they run around through the soil and they weave things together, etc. They live off of carbon. When you use a synthetic fertilizer, there's no carbon in it. And so you are not feeding the microbes. And actually, in many instances, what you're doing is you're killing the microbes. Now, some of the microbes will eat. Obviously, there's a microbe that'll eat anything. So some of these microbes will eat these synthetic fertilizers. But then what happens is you change the ratio of the mix. And so you don't get the natural ratio that the plant assumes is going to be there to feed itself. That causes the plant to have to adjust or to try to adjust, and all of a sudden it's wasting energy that could be going into your product into dealing with something that you put in the soil, which is a silly thing to do.
It really is.
So they need that carbon, and these products contain carbon. And if they don't have that carbon, there's nothing for them to eat. That's why these products make so much sense.
And the more carbon and the more biology you have, the more your plant immune system really helps sustain itself, and you don't have to buy excess pesticides and fungicides and spend the money on the labor to apply those things.
That's right. Well, not only that, but in addition, as these microbes are eating that carbon, they are producing all sorts of hormones and all sorts of chemicals which are designed either to protect themselves or to protect the plant so that they can continue to get exudates from the plant. And so it's not just what you're feeding these microbes, it's what the microbes are doing with the food that you're giving them. They're making things that the plant can use. They're taking that energy and they're making better soil structure. And that's so incredibly important. And you don't normally get that when you use a liquid, and you certainly don't get that when you use a synthetic liquid.
Microbes is one of my favorite, and that, because it is my favorite product. Microbes is my favorite product in the entire lineup. It is the key to life. 5.22 billion CFUs per teaspoon. Without these beneficial microorganisms, we truly would not be on this planet, nor would any life. These are the key to carbon sequestration, fixing our atmosphere, allowing soils and plants to effectively work together, as well as allowing food, our gut, and our body to work together in symbiosis. All these microbes are bound to dextrose, sucrose, and all the food sources they need to grow rapidly throughout their life. Feed your plants roots, have bigger fruits.
Check us out at KeyToLifeSupply.com.
What's happening, y'all? We're here at the Giant facility and separation facility. Get our hemp on. The side dump trailer dumps out here. It's roughly about 12 to 15,000 pounds per load, and we're getting about 2 loads per day right now that we're able to process through this system. First here, we've got our Franklin grinder. Our Franklin grinder is basically a grinder that grinds the material to about 3/4 inch size. Then it comes up this conveyor belt, and there's like a little bit of a brush on that conveyor belt that keeps the layer on the conveyor belt very consistent, which is very important. Then it comes up, and that first blue drum is our first heater. It injects hot air from the bottom, lifts that material through that ducting, and then takes it outside to the cyclone separator, which you guys have seen in some of the other videos. Then it brings it back in, and it brings it down onto a bubbling bed. That's where the final drying takes place. Once the material is dry enough, then it can hop over this little wall. Then it goes into the next conveyor. Then that conveyor is that blue conveyor down there that heads out to the separator. Then the separator separates it, stem, seed, keef, and bio. We leave the keef and the bio blended back together at the end so that the final extraction is comprised of both. Let's check it out. So here's where we got the Franklin grinder. Franklin grinder is coming in. Feed through this conveyor right here. This heater blasts heated air up through this ducting. And here's our second heater. This heater blows heated air. The bubbling bed from the bottom. Then it can hop over this little wall. Then it goes into the next conveyor. And that's your material before separation. Then it comes into material separation through this conveyor and out right here. This is where the hopper. It used to take super sacks of material, but we don't do super sack loading anymore. We have it hooked up with this belt conveyor, which is 1,000 times better than unloading by super sack. Oh my God, and it saves so much time and so much effort. Way more. And as well as a lot of material loss. So we've got this conveyor. Fiber comes out. This is all the separated fiber. And right here's where our so it's got 90% of the stem separated out of it. And this is extraction grade biomass. It's gonna make really good distillate or isolate or even other products.
Check us out at KeyToLifeSupply.com.
So this is our Super Plug seed sowing service. Step 1 of the process, we take our pre-formed plugs, get them built in-house here with a beautiful pre-amended organic soil. We'll ship them to your farm, ready to go with the process. Then we will start with the dibbler. We'll put a hole in that plug and get it ready to go for our seeds. Next step in the process, we'll use our patented air seeder to drop approximately 5,000 seeds per hour with a 99% accuracy. Then on from there, we're gonna move to the top coater. This is gonna take our vermiculite blend, drop that on top of that thing so we get a nice coverage over top of our seeds full, and then onto the water all, where we can either take your local hose water or a proprietary blend of our microbes and our fungi to get that root stimulation germination, get it going, and then out through the end of the process, right into your greenhouse, ready to grow. Germination from beginning to end, Key to Life Super Plug Seed Sowing Service.